When you're standing in a garage or a small shop, wondering whether a new TIG welder is really worth the shelf space and the money, the decision can feel a lot like a gamble. You've probably seen the flashy ads that promise professional-grade results, and you've heard the warning that a cheap machine can ruin a project before you even start. I'm not here to hype anything. I want to walk you through what the Welder Maxstar 161 STH actually does in a real workshop, the kind of jobs it handles comfortably, and where it might leave you wishing for a bit more. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's put the Maxstar 161 into context. In the TIG welding world, you're usually choosing between three broad categories: entry-level units that are light enough for hobbyists, mid-range models that balance portability with a decent duty cycle, and heavy-duty machines meant for industrial production. The Maxstar 161 sits in that middle ground. It's a 160-amp TIG welder, which means you can comfortably weld thin sheet metal like automotive panels, but you also have enough punch to tackle modest steel structures for a small fabrication shop. The package arrives as a single unit with its own power cable, and the whole thing weighs roughly 75 pounds, so you can roll it on a cart or even lift it onto a workbench without a team of guys. It's made in the United States, which for a lot of buyers is a reassurance that the components meet Miller's usual quality standards. Now, who should actually consider this machine? If you're a hobbyist who welds a few projects a month, maybe restoring a classic car, building a backyard grill, or repairing a bike frame, the Maxstar 161 gives you enough control to dial in a clean bead without the learning curve of a larger, more industrial system. Its digital interface is straightforward. You set the amperage, choose AC or DC, and you're ready to go. For small business owners who do low-volume production, think custom metal art, small-scale fabrication, or a local repair shop, the welder's 20% duty cycle at full power can handle a day's worth of work if you pace yourself and let the machine cool between runs. The value really comes from the fact that you're getting Miller's brand reliability without stepping up to the pricier 250-amp rigs that are overkill for those kinds of tasks. On the flip side, if you're a professional fabricator who runs 8-hour shifts, welding thick structural steel, or doing high-volume production, you'll probably find the Maxstar 161 limiting. The 20% duty cycle means you have to pause after about 6 minutes of continuous welding at 160 amps, which can disrupt workflow on a job that needs a steady stream of heat. Also, the machine's weight, while manageable, is still substantial enough that you won't want to move it around a large job site multiple times a day. In those environments, a larger Miller unit with a higher duty cycle and more robust cooling would be a safer bet. Let's talk about practical strengths you'll notice once it's plugged in. The first thing I observed was the consistency of the arc. Because Miller designs these units with a stable inverter, the output stays even when you're welding thin aluminum at 30 amps. That steadiness translates into less spatter and a cleaner finish, which saves you time on post-weld cleanup. I also appreciated the built-in pulse control, which is a feature you normally see on higher-priced models. When I used it to weld a 1mm stainless steel sheet, the pulse helped keep the heat input low, preventing the metal from warping, a real advantage when you're working on precision parts like HVAC ducts. Another practical perk is the machine's flexibility with power sources. The Maxstar 161 can run on a standard 120-volt outlet, which is a huge convenience if you don't have a 240-volt supply in your shop. You can simply plug it in, set the voltage selector, and start welding. That portability makes it a solid candidate for on-site repairs, like fixing a fence gate or welding a broken trailer frame in a driveway. Of course, you'll get the full 160-amp capacity only on a 240-volt line, so if you stay on 120 volts, you'll be capped at around 100 amps. That's a trade-off worth noting before you buy. Now for the hidden trade-offs that often surprise new owners. Because the Maxstar 161 is designed to be a bit lighter than the big industrial units, the internal cooling system relies on a fan that runs continuously. In a hot workshop, that fan can become noticeably loud after a while, which isn't a deal breaker, but something to keep in mind if you need a quieter environment. Also, the machine doesn't come with a built-in gas regulator, so you'll have to purchase a separate regulator for your argon or helium supply. That's standard for many TIG welders, but for a first-time buyer it adds an extra cost and a small amount of extra setup time. One practical weakness that shows up in real use is the